at it for possible use for the schools and said, yeah, if you make that front room an auditorium again, that would be a great room for the big meetings, and then you'd have the other rooms for the breakout meetings, those kind of things. And then Jane Henderson, same thing, said she had been saying for years that she needed a place to provide some of her services. And she thought the Hindle building was a good fit for that. Room size, and the size of the rooms in the Hindle building are different from what's in the Parks and Rec and what's in the library. So they kind of fit a niche that is not filled right now. So after those conversations, I felt pretty good about coming to the board and saying, hey, feasibility study says the Hindle building as a community center, and we feel like that's what we ought to do with it. Did a lot of brainstorming about what we would do there. I mean, part of those discussions were, ideas from those folks of how they would be used. You already talked about Dr. Harper, talked about Jane some.
And the library as well. They have currently a problem with meeting rooms.
Yeah.
And that's been proposed in their budget to try and do renovations for the library. This actually would meet that need right now if this was followed through.
Yeah, that is part of what Jill mentioned is when they did, you all have a study for the library, in the CIP out some years, and those, yeah, she said that design included, basically, she didn't say it in these words, but basically we're serving as a de facto community center. And so we have to have space for folks to come and meet and the room size and that sort of thing. So yeah, so that's kind of what got us to you all. And we looked at, how to put it in the CIP, kind of staging it out and having an opportunity to do the engineering design and then the construction later. So it was staged out over several years in the CIP rather than one big chunk. So, the gist of what I said in the article is, I think it's important we follow the process. The committee started meeting. We had all these ideas, private use, public use. We talked to developers. We did all these things. We kind of got to the point where we were overwhelmed basically with all the ideas. And then having the feasibility study, that next step in the process, took that and put some focus on what we're doing and kind of confirmed some things we had heard or thought and gave us some direction. So then, going through the CIP process, well, I guess the next step, the next piece in the process was, okay, just because it says it's a community center, do we need it? Let's make sure we really need it. So that was that next step in the process to talk to the folks that provide those services and see if we need it. Then it was coming to you all for the CIP and getting it approved into the CIP, which was done. And I say you all, the Board of Supervisors, current, previous, whatever it was, Board of Supervisors. And so now we're at the point where, in my mind, the next step in the process is to publish the RFP for the design and engineering. And I think if we do that properly, if we put the proper wording in that request, then the responses from the firms will inform what you think the next step in the process, which would be awarding the contract for the engineering. But I think that this next step in the process of just publishing the RFP makes sense because it's an opportunity for us to gain some more information from people who are paid to do this kind of thing. I mean, those engineering firms out there that do the design for buildings, these type of buildings should know if they can find grants based on that. Part of what we did, Todd Fortune met with the committee when we were meeting and coached us and taught us a lot about grants and how grants are gotten and those kind of things. I think what I walked away with that from most of what he told us is, you need to have a plan, you need to have a vision of what you need, and then see what grants match those needs. And so that's So for things like when I'm talking to Jane Henderson, she's talking about programs that target low and middle income folks. So talking to Todd, there's grants that would help offset the cost of facilities that target low and middle income citizens. So therefore, if we design the building to match the need that Jane sees in the community, there would be a grant to offset that part of the building. So those are the kind of things, and I think that's what I was saying. I think the next step is to get that information back from the design, continue to have community discussions about what to use a building for, so we make sure we're honing in on those needs, and we're meeting needs, and we're not just doing it to do it. And then once we've identified those needs, look for the proper place to find grants. And if there's not grants available, then I think that's, we've talked about fundraising, and we as a committee have talked about fundraising and things we could do to fundraising, bricks and, the brick pavers and different.
Brick.
Huh?
Buying brick.
Yeah. Those kind of ideas, a lot of ideas. And I think that's what, as you identify the needs and then say, these are the needs, okay, these are the ones we can get grants for. These are the ones we can't get grants for. We can go to the community and say, if you really think this is a need for the community, then we're gonna have to do the fundraising. And let's go about getting that fundraising done, whatever that takes. So I probably talked a lot longer than I'm meant to, but that's kind of where we are in my mind. I'd love to hear whatever questions or concerns you guys have. And there are several folks in the room that haven't participated in committee meetings before, so they might have some thoughts or ideas as well.
I mean, my whole thing is I have to justify it to the citizens. That's just like I told you originally. I've got to be able to justify spending that money. And you've got a $2.3 million figure, which is no good anymore. That's from August of 2020.
Yes.
So that's nothing. That's going to be doubled. I can guarantee you it's going to be doubled. But I had some questions about what's in here on the feasibility study. I mean, it doesn't show any demo. It's not included in it. Because the whole building's gonna have to be gutted inside. The only thing you will have left is exterior walls.
Well, you may be right. I would say we need an engineering study to know that. That's not what the folks that did the feasibility study said.
Well, the steps cannot stay there to be ADA compatible. See, we had Dexter, Sean, David, myself, Taylor, Daryl Goff all went through that building and spent, well, you weren't there the whole time because we couldn't do, but I was at every meeting with all the other board of supervisors, and Daryl was at every meeting trying to figure out what we could do with that building. Because the way I look at everything, the county's money is just like mine. I've got to be able to justify how I spend it. We're spending it wisely. So Daryl's recommendation was design build, get contractors in here, come up with an idea. That way we're not spending $300,000 for that. They're spending their time, their money. It doesn't cost us a dime. You come up with something that fits into that building that would suit what we're looking for. And then we go from there to see whether we can do it or not. His recommendation was put the elevator on the inside of the building instead of the outside. That's one of my gripes. I love the building, don't get me wrong. If I could move it, I'd take it in a heartbeat. I'd turn it into a house. But putting that glass elevator outside that building destroys the whole appearance of the building. In my opinion, that's my opinion only. So Daryl recommended putting it inside where the coal chute is, and then you run it up, you can catch all the floors. But see, all your steps are going to have to be changed. So that means all your interior walls are going to be gone. Some of them got lead paint, some of them got asbestos. Some of the caulking has asbestos. They're only going to demo what has the bad items in it. They're not demoing the entire inside. We got to do sprinkler system in it. I didn't see any of that. So I mean, I don't know, to me, this number is not, it's not clarified enough to what we're doing. What does that include?
I think the whole county should have the opportunity to see the engineering study. If you're talking about everybody's tax dollars, excuse me, should be able to see the engineering study.
So the feasibility study is posted.
Excuse me. Everybody should be able to see the figures and what's included in it and see if it's all inclusive. And I know it's outdated, like Todd said, 2020. I mean, you're talking about inflation and
I mean, the bank building itself, excuse me, Walter, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The bank building was what, a year and a half maybe when they bought that and started all that and came up with that figure, that's already doubled. It's doubled from what they had on the original figure.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, you're right. I mean, yeah, costs have gone up. We don't know what the cost is right now. The feasibility study that was done is posted on the website, so it is available for everybody to see. So the information we have so far is available. It's not hiding anything.
That would be it.
So that information's out there, and it is from when it was done. And yeah, there's been a lot of inflation since then. I guess what I'm saying is the next step in the process would just be to post the RFP and see what we learn from the responses we get from the engineering firms. The responses from the engineering firm might enlighten us to, there's lots of grants out there that we're not aware of. It might enlighten us to, the cost is so much that, yeah, it's time to walk away from it now. I mean, I think those responses will give us the next piece of information. And that's why I say, you know, when we started this 2.5 years ago, you know, we could have all sat around and said, it's going to be too much money. It's old building. Some of us like the elevator on the outside. Some of us like the elevator on the inside. We can't agree on that. Let's just give up.
But see,
We didn't do that. We spent the time to talk to developers and see what they thought about it. Get ideas from lots of folks, have 20 folks in meetings and just brainstorm ideas and write all those ideas down and follow up on those the best we could. We went through the process. We did the steps so that we learned more information. We did the structural analysis. We did the hazardous material analysis. So you're right. There's asbestos, there's lead. We know that because we did the studies. We got that information in hand. So
Before the study.
right, yeah, before the feasibility
And
study.
Mercury.
Yeah.
but see, even at the 2.4, I can't justify it to the citizens. That's my job, is to justify how we spend the taxpayers' money.
All right, let me ask you this. You keep saying justify.
That's right.
All right, if the citizenry came back and said, Todd, rebuild the building.
Okay, but see, that's not what I'm getting.
But that,
I've only talked to one person. Now granted, I'm in a little area in Manboro. I said it's in their store Saturday. One person. I had I say a bunch. I think it was probably 4 that said bulldoze it. Which nobody's saying bulldoze it right now. That's what those 4 people said. And then everybody else just said, you know, I don't think it's justifiable to spend that kind of money for what we're getting out of it. And that's what I've heard. That's why I'm open. That's why we're sitting here talking. And I told you on the phone the other day, I've got to justify it. It's not my opinion. I love old buildings. The house I live in is a duplicate of Effington. Outside, the only difference is the interior's updated. I got old buildings on the farm that I've restored. But this is not my money. This is everybody else's money that I have to justify. And by my figures, I could probably double the square footage of usable space by building a brand new building versus what's there. And so this is why I'm asking you to justify, how can I sell this to the citizens? It's your job to sell it to me so I can explain it to them.
okay, and to that end, I posted this on the updates on 3 different pages. I believe actually it was 4, but I was able to get the numbers off the 3 different pages. Judging by what I saw, 14 people were all happy about or liked the updates on one page. 4 opposed. That was a 7-to-1 ratio. On another one, 61 people liked it. 11 didn't.
What does liked it mean?
Basically, they clicked like, they clicked love, or they actually commented with positive comments of go ahead and do it. Thank you for updating. Thank you for
Okay, so we'll give you 200 people. So what do I tell the other 11,000?
And another 4 were on another page and there were no opposing comments.
But Facebook is not how we do polls.
I agree, but at least.
I'm not on Facebook.
All right, at least. Exactly.
Excuse me?
Nor is necessarily sitting at Sidney store and waiting for people to come approach.
But are they not the citizens in the county? They're in my district.
So are the people that are commenting on social
That's
media.
what I'm saying, but you can't judge, and I'm not judging just, but Dexter, if you talk to
You're
people.
negating the comments on Facebook in favor of the people that came to you to the store. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, you got to look at both of them.
Yeah, but I mean, he's trying to tell me numbers. I gave you 200.
I don't think that there's any way that you're going to necessarily be able to get an accurate assessment of, how many people are in favor of doing some of that building, tearing it down, or doing a specific project with that building. I don't think.
But you're still not answering my original question is how do I justify it to the citizens?
Well-
When they ask me, come up to me and say, why are you spending $4 million or whatever, $1 million on this building?
First of all,
I have to justify that.
all right, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you that that is your responsibility to do that.
Yes, it is.
I would expect my supervisor to do that. You're not my supervisor, but I would expect mine to do that as well. The thing is, and I've joined in this, debate on Facebook about this myself, and some of you may have seen some of the stuff I said, but we don't live in a democracy in this country, despite the fact that people in the federal government say we live in a democracy. We live in a republic, and we elect people to make decisions for us. And if I assume the people that elected you thought you made good decisions, and so they elected you. The folks that elected you thought you made good decisions and elected you. And I guess that's the same thing is true for everybody else that's up there. So if they don't like the decisions that you make, they don't vote for you. But they don't get to have a day-to-day role in making the decisions. That's why we have a board of supervisors. We don't have, this is not New England where we have a town hall meeting or whatever, and everybody votes, do you want to approve this budget, or do you want to approve this project or something like that? This is not New England, this is Virginia. We don't do things the same way they do up there. I'm happy that we do it the way we do it.
So I'm not supposed to ask the people of Amelia what their opinion is on an item.
That's not what he said.
But let me just address a couple of things that you said, if you don't mind. So about the elevator, I'm a big fan of historic buildings myself. I have an office in a historic building. That's about the same age as that one is, actually, at least part of it. I don't like the idea of a glassed-in elevator attached to the building either. But my understanding of the reason that was proposed was to allow us to get the maximum possible historic tax credit for the project, because the people that approve historic tax credits want, their guidelines say that you have to be able to distinguish the old part of the building from the new part of the building. And what better way to distinguish it than you have a brick building built in 1910, I believe, versus a glassed-in box, essentially, that's attached to the side of it. I agree. I don't really like the aesthetics of it, but you couldn't have more of a clash between the old and the new.
For $455,000, I wouldn't worry about getting the tax credit. I'd rather keep a building looking like it was supposed to look. That's just my opinion.
Well, and it'd be hard to do that with the elevator inside the building, in my opinion, but from what I saw, because I think if you did that, you'd then have to change everything around inside.
You're gonna have to do that anyhow.
I don't think that's necessarily true, not based on the study that was done. It didn't appear that that was the case. I don't think it's true that the whole reason to have the elevator was to accommodate the ADA.
ADA, that's right.
So what difference does, I don't think you have to redo the stairs necessarily in order to accomplish that. At least that was not part, again, and this goes back to what, Jay was talking about, which is the engineering study. First of all, you're not, by keeping this in the CIP, you're not necessarily agreeing to spend the county's money on it. You're agreeing to see how much the county's money is going to cost.
It's 300,000 first.
Whether you want to continue that.
But see, we don't even know that. That's what's budgeted, but we don't have any responses to an RFP that says 300,000.
You don't
That
spend the,
response might come back at 180,000.
you don't spend the county's money until y'all tell Taylor or whoever to sign the check.
Yeah, and I'd like to know what we're spending, because I already got hit one time this year, and I swore then I'll never get hit again of signing the blank check.
Okay, well, I don't,
And I'm not signing any more blank checks for nothing, because I wouldn't do it in my personal life, so I'm not gonna do it in
I
county
wouldn't
business.
want you to do that if you were my supervisor, and I don't want you to do that even though you're not my supervisor. Because I don't think any public official should sign a blank check for anything. Or private citizen should sign a blank check for anything. It's stupid. But you're not doing that, as I understand this process, and this is not the process that I'm intimately familiar with, but you are agreeing to set this amount of money aside for up to this amount of money aside to spend for this purpose. If you get proposals in that call for spending less than that amount of money or more than that amount of money, or even that amount of money, you still have to say, yeah, we want to spend it. You're not saying I've agreed to spend it and that's that. We're obligated to do it at that point, as I understand. You're not obligated to do it until somebody writes the check or signs a contract. And you're not doing it. And the bottom line with that building remains that even if I personally, I'll be frank with you, and I've told Jay this the other day, I think I commented on that during the committee meetings when I was a part of them, that I'm not a huge fan of the community center idea. I think there probably is a need for it, but I can see why, it's going to be, it'll take a lot of work to sell it, people, like you said, and I think it's going to take a lot of private donations probably to carry the project to completion for that purpose. But just because you ask for proposals and determine what the actual costs of this are going to potentially be, and then later decide you don't want to do it, you're not obligating yourself to anything. You're not obligating yourself to the community center idea either. I was told, and this may not be accurate, but I was told that you and at least one other person on the board of supervisors were fans of the idea of turning that into additional office space or something.
We threw out all kinds of stuff over there that day when Darrell was over there with us. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Anything that would work to make it feasible to do something with the building.
My guess would be that you all didn't come up with any idea that the committee didn't already come up with.
that's,
That's when Darrell said do a design build. He said, let the contractors, he said, you throw it out to a bunch of different contractors, let them come out here and look at it. Because there is contractors out here that's all they do is design, build old buildings. They do it in Richmond all the time. They come out, they tell you the best use for this building. This is what it'll cost you. This is what I'll do it for, yay or nay.
That's what
And it doesn't cost a dime.
That's what the feasibility study actually did.
and they took into account the economy and
But
our taxes with.
But what I see on that feasibility study does not do that. There's no demo.
The other thing that an option for you, I think, would be to go forward with what Jay said. And you can't poll everybody, in your area. But one way to do it, and I'm not sure the committee even agrees with this, is then take that and put it up for a bond issue, put it up for a vote. All right.
It's not enough money. I already looked into doing that.
Not enough money for what?
The dollar amount's not high enough to do it.
$3 million, not enough for a bond.
What I was told it's not. Not to put it on the ballot. That's what I was told. 'Cause that's what I'd like to have done,
Yeah,
because then that answers it.
right,
It's either they want it or they don't.
right.
And I don't take the blame either way, because it's the citizens. See, I'm trying to get out of the rat
It's the
trap.
same thing.
You know, that's,
No, but I think that's a good way. And I think we need to double check that, don't you, to make sure that that's a real thing.
the source I had it from was pretty reliable. So, I mean, I can check it again, but I was told that
Wouldn't Taylor know?
that's who I got it from.
He said that's not big.
Yeah, he said it's, the dollar amount's not large enough. He thought it had to be like 10 or 15 plus to get it on the ballot for a referendum to see, what the citizens wanted to do with it. So I don't know. That's what he told me when I asked him.
Well, you want to go back and study that one again. This thing started.
Right.
You started out looking for something to do with the building and spend the tax dollars on it.
Something to
Not
do.
a lot of stuff.
Spend money.
Let's just be straight up. That's exactly what you're looking
No,
for.
no, we weren't, no, wait a minute, wait a minute, no, I don't think I have to sit here and have you accuse me of something that's not true. That's,
Let me finish.
I wouldn't look into spending tax dollars.
Well, if it's not a private investment, it is tax dollars to start with. Okay, on top of that, you started out looking to restore the building, then you tried to figure out a use for the building. Then it turned around where you found that the best use for the building would be a community center. Not that the community center would be the best use in the county, but it would, or the best use for the county money spent. But it was for a building, to restore the building, to save the building. That was, am I right? That's really what's developed here? If
Well, I don't think you are right. I don't think you listened to what I said earlier.
How you got from saving the building to becoming, and I sat here and listened to what you said, and that's exactly what you said. When you went,
I would disagree.
all right, you have an engineering or structural engineering or development design background.
No, do you?
Okay, yes, I do. Okay.
Enlighten us.
And on top of that, you started with figuring out the best use of the building and spent money into that. In reality, the best money would have been spent was to do a structural engineering on the building to find out what shape the building was in and what could be used in the building and what would have to be done to the building first. Even make, no, you did not there yet.
It's in there.
It's touched in there. It's touched in there. It's not in there. I've looked at it.
So it's not in the feasibility study, but there was a separate
Flexibility comes afterwards. So
review, structural review of the building.
from that.
Contracted by the county.
Spent already, and should not have been spent on that, on the engineering. And on top of that, you don't know what steps and stuff's gotta be moved or what's gotta be done because you don't have that practice, right? You're just giving an opinion.
Did you join the committee during the?
No, I didn't, because I didn't support the start with, because I knew what was going
Because you already decided that you didn't want to do anything with it anyway, so you just elected to not participate.
I'm a
Okay.
taxpayer.
That's a good idea.
I am not saying what the tax will not be spent in the county, just as well as everybody else.
Well, then you have a right to participate in the committee so that you could have voiced your views and said, I don't think you should spend any money on this.
Something that the county does not do.
Did you tell whoever your supervisor was?
Yes, you did.
You did? Who was it?
Which one?
Who was your supervisor?
Mr. Harris was at the time.
You told him that you didn't think they should spend money on it?
Yes, it did.
He must have liked what they.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we talk a lot
Yes,
on
we have.
tax board. So it's nice to put a face to your name.
But then you know, the money that you're talking about spending, but you don't have any control over, one thing you can't control is inflation right now. It's a lot going on in the county right now, it's developing. Is this a priority that needs to be money, tax dollars spent on at the present time? Over top, more important than anything else, it's going to be done in the next year or two. And it's a lot of projects going on in the county. My point is, community center is a perk center have a certain group as a county. It does not do anything for the whole county. It doesn't produce anything for the whole county, but the whole county will be paying for it. It's gonna be small groups, or what groups you have is gonna be in this building developing for the businesses that's gonna be developing from that. Okay, but it's not gonna be any benefit to people in Manborough, to people in Painville, to people in Jetersville. It's not gonna do anything for them because they're not gonna be a part of it. They're not gonna get to use that.
Are you suggesting that the people in Manborough and Jetersville and other areas of the county don't use the Parks and Rec Center, or don't use the library, don't use the schools?
They do.
I'm suggesting that's the case.
It's needed, and those things was done. This is not something that's define the word need to me that you're saying to me.
Okay, Bobby, I'm from Jetersville. I'll use the building. I'm from Jetersville. I'll use the building.
Say that.
My family will use the building.
How many are you gonna have? You got, right now, how many people have y'all gotten together so far that's interested in doing this again? Numbers is what matters.
Okay.
The count. You have like 200 people?
I'll show you this. These are handed out. The day that we had the open house. They're handed out to everybody.
Okay.
It's also on the county website.
Okay.
You can download it, print it. Most of the interests that we had as far as ideas came from these. I had two other ideas from citizens of this county for the Hindle building that has not been in the plan that I was gonna say. Laura Walsh said her department may be interested in moving there. She needs a space. And another one was, a suggestion was, what about sheriff? They're kind of crammed up in the courthouse. They could use more space. Does anybody else sheriff Walker? So there are more ideas on the plate right there.
You've gone back and reversed again, gone back and needing more space. But what you're really building here is restoring the building, whether it's functional or not. In the long run, because the building's only got so much space in it. It's a small building in reality or community center.
I mean, if the goal is to, sorry, to interject, the goal is to get more space, as Todd said, we could probably do a better investment for more space than the building itself. So
You want to do your study, take the amount, X amount of dollars and find out where would be best spent as far as community center purpose.
So real quick,
I'm sorry, can you?
Yeah. First, I do want to say, Lynn, Sean, I forgot what your name is. Jay. But thank y'all for putting the time into this, really. I mean, anybody that steps up in the community, puts their time, it's a labor of love. I totally get it. Problem was, I think the root cause, or maybe the root of this problem was that all this study and stuff was done at the wrong time. Maybe we're just quite jumping the gun with doing the community center thing. And I think there's two parts to look at this. Do we want to save the building? I want to save the building. I think most people don't want to see the building bulldozed down. I think if you look at it, that part one box, just put that in a box, save the building, yes or no. I think everybody's in agreement on more so than not to save the building, to do something with the building. The problem is, and we move on to that for this part two, and I feel like this community center thing has become more of a forced thing, more of a last option to do something to save the building. I know the thing we're talking about right now is just get an RFP to talk about. There's a lot, I think, private investment to do for this building. The problem is, you know, I go to the million breweries across the state and the whole East Coast, right? I look at all these old buildings and stuff that's been done. The problem is when this stuff was all started and looked into, we were in the middle of a pandemic. There's nobody looking into investing that kind of money into something like that when those kind of places are shutting down, restaurants are shutting down, stuff like that. It just wasn't a good time to kick it in high gear and really start looking into some of those options. Save the building, yes. But still coming off in the middle of a pandemic and then saying, let's go to the community center right away. To me, yes, I want to save the building. I think maybe we could put some money into preserving it because we don't want to bulldoze it. But then to do this RFP, this engineering study with this mind that we're going to make it into community center, maybe we can do a little bit to the building now to make it more palatable in the near future for a private investor to come in. Let them do the engineering study, let them put the money in it. At that point, that county can pretty much hand it over to them, give them a good tax break, and we could get probably something better than the community center. Maybe not next year, maybe not the year after. But when you look at Easy's packed all night, now we have a distillery around the corner. None of that was there when we did this feasibility study. We're reaching out to those restaurants and breweries and those kind of parties and stuff. Doesn't mean we got good growth in this county. We got a lot of money coming into this county. Look at how our home prices are going. You know, we're talking about a community center to kind of, and getting grants to go after maybe a low income kind of use, but that's really not the direction our county's going. Is that really the kind of, I'm sorry, it might not be the political correct thing to say, but is that really the populace we want to pander to? When you got Easy selling $10 drinks and they're packed almost every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night.
Now, let's be clear on one thing. Nobody's saying tear the building down. Let's be clear on that. Nobody said that. I think,
Anyway.
yeah, but there's still talk about bulldozer and all that. And I've heard some comments from Facebook.
And that has been said, people have said.
I understand that, but that's not on the table today. I think we need to wait. Let's get some better ideas. I mean, okay, say you do a community center. It's mighty small. The county's growing. We are growing, and then we will turn around and in 5 years, we need another one.
Or to add on.
You know, I think right now, I think we should seal it up. We should preserve what we got. They recommended putting gutters on it. Painting it in the near future. Some windows are cracked, might be some shingles or something, slate that's cracked or something. I don't know how that did, but anyhow, I think that should be done until we come up with a better idea. I don't think it's a good idea. That's,
I think we've heard that.
I mean, I just think that's what it is. For dollar to dollar, I don't think it's a wise move for what we get out of it. The citizens get out of it. And one thing that did concern me is that in y'all study, you know, it says that live load was only 100 pounds per square foot. So that's going to take away woodworking shop. That's going to take away pottery. So they're going to be out the window because you can't put a kiln sitting there. You can't put a planer over here. You know what I'm saying? So I just think we need to, I mean, I think if the restaurants continue to grow in this county, which I think they will, because I think people are starting to realize that if they actually spend their money here, we'll get better items instead of going to Chesterfield, Farmville, Blackstone and spending their money. Spend it local, and then you'll see improvements here. I think we'll have something that'll pop out that can be done with it.
Are you saying that you as a supervisor would support the county selling the building to a private developer?
I don't know if you could sell it to somebody.
Sell it, give it.
Yeah, I mean,
you want to call it.
that would be up for
Transfer
discussion.
ownership.
I would think it would be up for discussion. If something's done legitimate to it. I mean, go ahead.
But first of all, I think town hall meeting is a wonderful idea. I've been
Yeah.
thinking about that all week. I thought that was a wonderful idea. Second of all of this going back and forth, all this time we're spending back and forth, this idea, and it's going on and on and on. Is that not telling us something in reality? Is that not saying something
What saying, so what's it saying? What's it saying to you?
that you beat a dead horse?
Or I would say it's the people that had the opportunity to be on the committee 2.5 years ago and didn't take it and could have heard that we went through all these ideas already.
Well, folks don't know, and it's not like
So I don't think it's a dead horse. I think it's, you had your opportunity.
I know, they don't know that, and they don't know how to go on the web and look up all this stuff, you know.
What
Hold on.
was?
Her husband,
Yeah.
the man sitting right there. He's the one.
It's my circle and my friends and my street and my community and all of my people. I don't get any positive feedback. They all say it's not a good time. It's just not a good time to spend. This is not what I want to see.
I had one person in Marlboro, and I can't quote him word for word what he told me, but he did say the county has plenty of money, restore the building. And I said, well, what do we do with it? He says, I don't care. As long as it's restored. I don't care if nobody uses it. Don't care what it is, spend the money, restore it. And I said, well, what happens if we have to raise taxes to do this? And then it was silence. You know, go ahead.
So when you mentioned where was everyone 2 years ago, well, we did discuss growth. I'm new. I've only been in this county for about a year and a half. So maybe some people who are new, who just moved in because they love Amelia, they visit and they're like, you know, I want to move here. Maybe the opportunity should be more, I mean, I could start working with the website to make it more public on your meetings that you have, so you get a better idea and understanding of the community and the new people that are writing. Me personally, I love history. My first farm was 1857, and I was excited. I would love to see it restored, but everyone's talking about the finances side of it. Why can't we, if we're going that route to restore it, to make it a usable building, why can't we make it rental spaces? If that's the concern of making the money back, we'll still have the historic building there to add to the, the charm of the city or whatever, not city, but
By rental, what do you mean?
I don't know, just some way to justify, yes, we will get some income of it to pay the citizens back.
I have an idea. To piggyback on that, and I think she does, like she said, look, the county's changed a lot in the past year, I think, past year or two. Like I said, the committee, nobody showed up and stuff. It's a pandemic. But to piggyback on rental spaces, if we turn that to a space palatable to like maybe a restaurateur or something, and then lease it to, maybe that's an option. We'll develop the space into something usable. Then maybe somebody will come in, maybe Easy's outgrows that space down the
Or
road. and
dog
decides to
state,
move in
that'd
there.
be cool.
Now, see, that was done in the study they said it didn't, the numbers didn't work.
Right.
But see, I think all this can change. I don't think we've got the right idea yet. I think it's there. We've just not figured it out. And I don't know if it was because of the COVID
Well-
jump
So
or what it is. So
what I'm hearing, you all don't think we need a community center.
well, I think we might, but that's not gonna be big enough for where we're going.
So, okay, so the people that provide the services say we need a community center. And some of them say that's just the right building for it, but you don't agree with that. And that's,
They've never come to us since I've been on the board, so I can tell you that the sheriff's never asked for more room.
no, I'm not talking about the sheriff. I'm talking about the.
Laura doesn't need more room. She's still got half an office in there that's not used. And I don't know, but to
I'm about
me,
Parks and Rec, the library, the schools, the extension office. Those are the folks I talked to, and they all said, yes, a communities, we benefit from that, and the room sizes are right. So that's what changed my mind from, no, we're not forcing this. When we got feasibility study back, I thought, too bad, it's dead. We don't need a community center. I was the same as you folks that think we don't need a community center. And then when I talked to the folks that provided the services, they said, yes, we need the space. Those rooms are bigger than the ones that we have now, but they're not as big as the gymnasium, so they fit. So yeah, that's a good space for a community center, and we need to provide the services that aren't provided now.
well, we toured them all at the beginning of our term this year. Dexter was with us, and not one of them complained to us about space.
Well-
They complained about bleachers.
Well, hold on.
And-
I wanted to say something.
So in the short time I've been in this office, there has been talk about, especially for the 4-H, there's not really a set point to go, a space to go. And one of the biggest issues that we've had is having to use the auditorium for our meetings, our, BOS meetings. However, I still don't think that building is big enough for the community center.
We talked about that too for the board,
And this is why I'm saying this,
the
but
whole upstairs.
this is the only reason I know that's what that says. Maybe for right now, it'd be great, but I don't see spending millions of dollars for that. When
If you look at
we
that,
have a huge amount of,
I've looked at everything over and over and over.
but we are growing super fast. I mean, judging by the permits that come in these doors, it's just insane. So I think by time that is done, if you were to guesstimate, I know it's just,
4 years. If you said go right now, it'd be 4 years before you were done.
I think if we hit that 4-year
Look at
mark,
the CIP if we followed the CIP budget, it'd be done in 3 years.
but even then.
Yeah, but I don't think you go get it all to work right now. You gotta realize you're shorthanded on labor. That's a major problem right now is labor.
Besides that, even at 3,
It would be small.
So everything I think of apparently is not correct.
No,
That's what I'm hearing.
I'm in the construction world every day. And I know what we're struggling with every day. I've had a help wanted sign out for probably 2 years.
I understand.
I hire and fire anybody that walks off the street. I ask no questions, just said, when can you start? That's all you do. Yeah.
there is one thing I think that needs to be addressed sooner or later that, like it or not, we're going to have to do, because would you buy a building that's full of lead, asbestos, and mercury?
No,
Okay,
but that's not even included in the 2.3 million. That's separate. The county knows they're gonna have to do that. Oh, it's separate. It's separate.
yeah.
It's separate.
so why can't we do as,
We already realized we're gonna have to do that.
So when you say it's separate, I guess I don't understand. This is the first I've ever heard that the feasibility study is not, these numbers are not any good. So, and I'm not saying you're not right. I'm just saying nobody's ever said that before, that, yeah, stuff's not included, this number's junk. Which is kind of what I'm hearing you say.
And was gas the same price today as it was then?
Well, no, but there's a difference in stuff's not included and there's been inflation. Yeah, there's been inflation. It's gonna be higher, but stuff's not included is they didn't do the study right. If you're saying, well, they left stuff out of the cost, then that would be added to whatever the impact of the inflation is.
I'm still sticking with the 2.4, 2.3. I'm not even going to the inflation. I need to be able to, if that's what you say it is, to justify that to the citizens, and I can't.
Right, and so.
So we're not going to the 4 million or 5 million or 6 million or whatever it is. I don't care.
But the 2.3, we don't need a community center. That's not justification. We don't need it.
No, I'm not saying we don't need it. I don't think it's big enough.
Okay, so that building is not any good for a community center. Is that, I'm just trying to understand. I hear what you're saying, Todd. I'm not arguing. You guys,
Well, I feel like we're playing word games, just like everything else out here. Everything this county does is a word game.
well,
You're not figuring that out.
No, I figured it out, and I don't play it. I'm black or white. There's no gray.
If you're accusing me of playing, and I'm a little offended by it.
Well, I mean-
I'm not trying to play word games. The
We're
recommendation.
spending money that is taxpayers' money on a building. I have got to be able, when Billy Bob walks up to me and says, why are y'all spending $2.3 million on that building? I've got to be able to justify it to him.
So if he walked up and said,
No, I'm not spending that money. That's the answer. I'm not spending 2.3 million.
I'll be spending 4 or 5.
No, your answer is I'm agreeing to ask for proposals for what it's gonna cost, and then I'm gonna decide whether I'm
Well, your
gonna spend it.
feasibility study said 2.3. So we're going off of your feasibility study. We're spending that. That's why we're gonna spend the money to do the development and the plans.
Rehash everything I said, but it's done in stages. It's done in stages so that you can both budget it and decide whether you want to budget it or not. If you don't budget it, it doesn't get done. So you're not agreeing to do $2 million or $4 million or $10 million. If following the project through to its completion would cost $10 million, you're not agreeing to do that by asking for people to submit bids for doing an engineering study. You're not agreeing to spend $10 million. You're agreeing to spend what they're gonna charge you if y'all decide to do that.
But
How
then it's
far do you get
still-
down the road before you can't turn it back?
Right,
That's another concern.
Yeah.
Well, that's their job to decide at that point, what is that point?
If you publish the RFP, then you get responses back. And they can make a decision on whether they proceed or not proceed.
Well, it looks like you're making a decision off of your feasibility study right this second. That's what I'm going with, is the 2.3.
You have to alter the.
That's where I had a problem with to begin with, was the 2.3, which is your feasibility study, that I asked Sean when he contacted me originally about this, how do I justify it? And I still don't have an answer.
So,
That is my question.
so if that person came to me and asked me that question, I would say, we need a community center. I've talked to the people that provide the services to the county, and they said, we need the community center and the rooms in the Hindle building fit what they need.
Okay,
That's how I would justify it to them.
okay, well then I would, if I have another man come up and say, why are we spending $350 a square foot to build a community center there that's going to end up being probably too small by the time it's finished, when you could build a brand new one for less money and double the square footage? See, that's part of the justification.
I would
This
say,
is why I keep asking the questions.
I would say right now in the process, we're not ready to make that decision. Right now in the process, we're ready to publish an RFP that would get us responses, that we would know, number one, how much it would cost us to get the engineering done, and whatever information we get out of those responses. There may be a designer out there that says, we've done a building exactly like this in another county in Virginia, and this is what it costs to do the work. And these are the grants we were able to get. And this is what public citizens were able to contribute. And we did it for this total amount. You may get that information just out of response to an RFP. And then you could make a decision based on that updated information, which is not a year old, or 2 years old or whatever on the.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, at 2 years ago, this came in at 2.4. I'm gonna say it again, 2.3 and change. So at today's, it's way higher than it was then. If we have a problem with 2.3, why do you keep thinking we won't have a problem at today's numbers?
Because
It's not gonna be cheaper.
the number wasn't 2.3, it was 1.8 because of the
Taxes.
yeah, the
Tax credit.
tax credits.
Yes.
How does the county get a tax credit?
They sell them privately.
Solid
Okay.
private.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's at 80 cents on the dollar.
That's right.
So so that's what the $26,000 we spent on the feasibility study told us that it was a historically significant building because that's the company that found out that it was historically significant because it was designed by a renowned architect.
Yep.
So that
You ain't gotta show me nothing. I've read this from top to bottom.
So that $400,000 became available to us because of the feasibility study. So I think that's money well spent. We found $400,000, $500,000, whatever it is, as a result.
If we put a glass elevator on the outside.
Well, the
That
other
was
thing,
one design.
that was one.
Because let me know this way. So if we go, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but we go private someday and we want to turn it over. Will the feasibility study help you as a Board of Supervisors determine whether to make it a restaurant or a pub or something like that? Would it help you then to be able to make that decision? Because you'll have that engineering? Am I saying that right?
Well, I mean, I'm going off of this feasibility study and where my problem lies, no matter what you do with it, it still lies at the dollar cost for the square footage of use.
You haven't made that determination yet.
The feasibility study did that.
Yeah, so let's take that away. We're not gonna do the feasibility study.
Okay.
Right. You're gonna let out a contract for this engineering to go with what these gentlemen over here are saying. What you determine is the need. Won't that help you at that time?
That's why Daryl suggested doing the design build to where it costs no money. Let the contractors come in here and look at it, and whether it's 5, 10, or 15 of them, come up with the idea for the best use of the space that works. And it doesn't cost the county $1. They give us a price and say, hey, we're turning this into a spa. This is an example, a spa. It's gonna cost you $2.3 million. Okay, that's the best one out of there. Then we go back to the citizens and this is what we got.
And the citizens vote or,
No, they're not, I mean,
where would anybody go back to the citizens?
because that's who I answer to.
Okay.
Whether you're in my district or not, I still answer to you. Because I represent Amelia County.
Why, Todd, what? I don't know you very well, I don't want to insult.
Right, good.
Why wouldn't you go back to the citizen? We pay the taxes in this county.
Right.
So you got to go ask the citizens what they want.
I totally agree with you. That's what.
That ain't what you just said. You said, why would you go back? You said, why would you go back to the citizens?
No, what I meant to say.
Well, that's what you said.
No, I don't mean to offend you, but I'm on your side. I want the citizens to be able to decide through a vote or through some kind
Yeah, I
of.
don't know how we could do it, because see, I'd love to have put it out to a referendum. That's what I asked, because that would cut all the garbage out. Then we could find out where we're at, whether we're hot or we're cold. And then we can move
What
forward.
was the reason you couldn't do that? I didn't.
Dollar amount. It's not a high enough dollar amount.
You can go back and look at history and it'll tell you what you need to know. You did the same thing with the gym. Did the same thing with this building here, because these buildings you want to save, you want to restore. This will be used for this, it will be used for that. Now, those buildings is obsolete because you're saying you're outgrowing and you need more. So if you spend more on this building, saving it, then you can build the building twice the size of and still have the problem with the building. Same thing with the gym. I mean, I was here, I was in on part of saving the gym, I was in on part of saving this.
What gym?
It says that this is overspent money. So when you come to using tax dollars money, you can't overspend the money. I realize grants was achieved in some of this, and both these, but it was still tax dollars put into it. And I guarantee you that if you go back and look at the statements and stuff on it, you'll see what come out of the budget.
I think would probably be good for y'all is if you started some fundraising. Get it going, show people that you're serious and it's not just taxpayers' dollar. Because I have had that told to me before too.
Did you know that fundraising was already done years ago and there's several $1,000s supposedly sitting in an account?
Yeah, they redid the bill or something. No, I think the Scots, paid them to redo
Scots
the
have the
bill.
bill, I think, but I don't think it was just the bill. It was broke. I thought it was fixing up the building for some purpose.
Mhm. They did art or something
But,
too.
but here's the problem. Here's the problem. Who, just as an individual, not as a supervisor, how much of your money are you gonna want to put towards some project that you don't know whether it's ever gonna actually get done? You don't know what it's going to be. You don't know anything else. You're just like, here, I'm gonna write you a check for $1,000 right now. Even though I don't have a clue what you're gonna do with it. Or how you're gonna use it. Or what, whether it's ever gonna get done at all. I mean, the problem is that y'all and the other people on the board have to show some leadership and make a decision about what you, as
So now it goes to
the
leadership.
as the representatives of this community, the elected representatives of this community, y'all have to make a decision about what you think is the best use for the building.
So I'm supposed to go off of 200 people and ignore the 11,000.
That's not what I just said.
Well, you just told me I need to make a
You
decision.
got to make a decision. You.
See, I feel like I'm wasting my time.
You've got to make a decision.
This is what I'm doing.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you two questions, okay? You're saying, let's put it as a vote to the people. You haven't heard anybody disagree with that. I haven't. Okay, how?
I can't do a referendum.
All right, then.
I don't know, but
Okay.
Facebook's not the way.
Hold on. My question was, how? You have no answer.
No, I don't.
Second, you are the Board of Supervisors. You and Dexter are the Board of Supervisors. You're elected into those roles. Like it or not, you have to make decisions and take responsibility for it. I'm
See,
sorry.
now you're talking down to me, and this is not gonna go well.
I'm stating a
I
fact.
can look, I'm almost ready to leave, honestly,
So I guess.
because look, I'm not a kid. No, wait a minute. I'm not a child, and I know what I'm doing on the Board of Supervisors. Facebook is not the way to do it, but you have 200 people versus 11,000.
Just a minute.
You haven't got
So
a speaker.
I think we're listening to the
I
majority.
have something to say, actually.
I've been able to say for an hour, but they ain't no need to say nothing.
There's a lot of going back and forth, back and forth. It's not a disrespect.
I don't, anyway.
First thing I got to say, the turnout speaks volumes. That's just being said. Two, it was put up at the last board meeting. I made a motion to defund it. I was crucified on social media, and some other people made a comment about one supervisor got stirred up. I said bulldozer. I never said that. I pulled 9 years in that building. He did too. James Brady got out there too.
I was a year behind you, but
How many more in here can say it? I know all about that building. I love history. This woman can tell you I got bookshelves full of Amelia County history. Y'all don't know, but I'm on the CRC board. And what they do is get grants. And on my nickel last month, I sit in there for 20 to 30 minutes trying to get money for that building. Y'all don't know that. But I was crucified because I said something at a board meeting. I took responsibility. I made a motion. Well, it didn't go nowhere because if I make it, he makes it one other, he gets killed. I'll stand up for what I think is right. I have surveyed everybody over my way that I could possibly meet. 2,500 voters are in my district. Look, I'm not saying the exact number. 2,000 out of 25 don't spend no money on it. Not now. My motion to defund it was to put it off till things get better. Because we are all out here trying to buy gas, groceries, and living day to day. Things ain't good. Our economy is tanking unless you're a liberal left and you think it's the greatest of being. It's not. The cost of stuff, I don't want to tell you what my farm has cost so much more this year. My diesel fuel's $5 a gallon. I was getting for $1.89, 80 or 90 cents 2 years ago. It's $5 a gallon. My combiner burns 100 gallons a day. That's just my combiner. And I run it all day today. Well, half a day. I get back to work on the other half. But we are at a time that we need to be very wise about how we're spending our money. Because I was voted and people told me, and she can tell you, I stood at that and talked to everybody that would talk to me going in the vote. And I heard, cut the wasteful spending out. If we give you 300,000 as an example for whatever it is you want to do, and it don't work out, what happened to that 300,000? We're committed then, because this board right here is going to go down as being tightwads. We're not going to waste y'all's money because the people don't want your money wasted. We're going to do every need that Amelia County needs. Might not get no wants, but we're going to look at it for the taxpayer. Because the young couples out here are struggling, the elderly are struggling. And I hear it all the time. One person is on the historical society tell me postpone it. I said, I'm sort of in that agreement myself. Let's let the country and our county get better because we are growing. We need stuff. But the time is not now. And it's going, some of y'all gonna say, what's gonna go up in price? Not necessarily. We built a brand new home in 2012. They told us at Cumberland Building Supply and everybody, y'all couldn't have picked a better time to build a house. 4 years ago, it cost you twice as much to build because the buildings, everything went to crap. We had contractors coming to me, begging me to work because they had no work to do. We built that house for almost $50 less square foot than it was projected to cost because well, I used my head, it done things, and it was time and hit it perfect. Now's not the time. with inflation and everything going on. It's not the time. All y'all's doing is arguing back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't getting nowhere. We're not against tearing this building down. Like I said, 9 years of catching my papers when the wind blew them off the desk up there. 9 years of the snow brushing it off the desk. William and I can tell you about those times. 9 years of the hottest damn place I've ever been and the coldest place I've ever been. That bit.
When Haywood didn't put enough.
Haywood, when he didn't throw enough coal down there, when we were down there talking to him in the recess all the time of old Haywood, good old man. But what has been proposed to me by the CRC, the problem, the county owns that building. That's the problem. That's going to be a roadblock on grants. A private individual or a historical society can get a grant a whole lot quicker. Amelia's cursed when it comes to grants. And I keep asking them why, because I belong to Nottaway, Lunenburg, Charlotte, Prince Edward, Cumberland, and Amelia. I said, why? Because I'm new to the board. Explain this to me. Your geographics. You're too close to Richmond. Y'all got the highest gross income of any of these in this district. They look at that. Community center, they laughed. Said, that's the worst possible thing you could say. It's too bad. We want to know when you get a grant, exactly what you're going to do with that grant money. Community center, no. We have a community center, the War Memorial Building. Do you know who paid for that? Do y'all know who paid for that? Amelia County didn't pay for it. It was all donations. That building was built on 100% donations by veterans. That's who built that building. Y'all need to just show that you can come up. I know I heard we got money. We did a little fundraising. Ain't gonna work. Y'all got to get into this more. I'm for you. I'm not against you. Even if one man says I'm for bulldozing it down, don't listen to social media because that's bull crap.
Thank you.
That is bull crap. It's good, but it's the worst thing it can be. I'm not on social media. You'll never see me post nothing on there because I'm old school. And I'm gonna stay that way. My life's too damn complicated now. I got computers in my combine and tractor, and they make me pull my hair out. I got 800 phone numbers wrote in my equipment. I call Brian in Georgia. This thing ain't working again. What do I do? Push speed buttons.
So
But we just need to watch, not the election next month, but the one after that, to see how our country's gonna get back going. And good times are coming again. They always have. And man, I would love to see a microbrewery and a nice steakhouse. Love to see that.
I mean, look at the halfway house on Jim Davis.
Somebody who wants to do it. And we have to present something there at that time. Now's not the time. This is like what Martin said. You could have picked the worst time.
Let me ask you this, all right? Kind of trying to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
We don't want the building deteriorate any worse. We want to keep it salvageable at the very least. That will require a little bit of work. We got to put gutters on and maybe one or two other things.
That's
We
maintenance.
just talked about
That's
that.
maintenance. And we're
We just said we would do
Because
that
they won't take care of it.
because it's there.
The other thing is sooner or later, we know we're gonna have to abate it. So these 2 points that we know we're all in agreement that we do need to address those issues at the very least. Is that a safe assumption?
And the supervisors will not let that building fall down at the front.
Well, maybe yet or not.
Not on our terms, while we're on the board.
Okay.
That is not gonna deteriorate no more. But we're not gonna give y'all, storm figure out, $100,000 to do a study. Because I done heard so much about the past board doing all these here studies on different projects and the project was never done. That money was peed away as the going.
Lots
And
of it.
we are against that.
That money we could use for the gutters and stuff instead of doing the studies.
Yeah. And that's all. I mean, I want to clarify that I was never, I guess, we would dream of bulldozing that building. I got some good memories. Yes, sir.
So everybody on the same note of what Sean said. So everybody seems to agree, except maybe Bobby over there, seems to agree that the building shouldn't be torn down, I think. Everybody in this room. And everybody seems to agree that, we gotta do certain basic maintenance type things to make sure that it doesn't fall down. And everybody seems to agree that regardless of what gets done with it in the future, whether it's done by the county, whether it's done by a private company or individual, certain things are gonna have hazardous materials and stuff are gonna have to be. And in order for us to have the most attractive options for doing something with the building in the future, that's probably gonna have to be paid for by the current owner as opposed to a future owner.
That's sort of.
Problem.
I made a
That's my
proposal.
problem.
I have asked a couple of people in the county. Proposal. We sold it to the Historical Society for $1.
The source side doesn't want it.
Well,
Why don't you want it?
that tells me something right there.
We don't have any money. We own a church that we can barely maintain now.
What church is that?
That's what I'm saying.
Maintain the
There's a reason why I said
That's
this.
right in my backyard.
There's a reason.
I spent a lot of time down there.
The
That's why we're
reason
doing
I
it.
said what I said. $1.
I helped them get rid of the
You
chimney
got
this year
10 years.
Yeah, I don't know why y'all did that.
because.
They scared us from falling down.
Trying
Yes,
to get
because it
all
actually
the
was.
grants and stuff because
Did you look at it?
Hindle
Not up
Building
where the roof's
Committee
not.
or the Hindle Building Association, y'all got a better chance at grants. When
I
it's
wouldn't laugh.
in the county's hands. Now, I've been told that. And after 10 years, it's up to the county whether we want it back or whatever. But technically, you own it for 10 years, $1. It's yours. I don't know how that would work, but it's been proposed. And the only reason y'all got it is so you could have a better shot at grants and stuff. Because the county owned, it's very hard to get grants. Even if it is historical, because I throw that up to them over there at the meetings I do. It's a historical building. Don't make no difference. It's county owned.
Well, just addressing the historical society and I don't want to be, I'm not speaking for the historical society. I'm just one of the people on the board. But I can tell you that it came up about fundraising for the building. And we said we'd be happy to help support fundraising. We'd be happy to help in whatever way we could, but we couldn't take ownership of the building. Because that is a huge obligation that an organization that has assets, not counting the church, of probably less than $35,000, can't afford to take on a building that's supposedly needs $2 million plus worth of work to do.
Well, you are a lawyer. And it could be written in there that the county is still obligated to do such and such and such.
Well, the county would have to take care of the lid and all the environmental.
County's really, it's yours. What I'm saying, because you got time, and it's coming back to us down the road. It's coming back. But this is for the purpose of y'all having a better shot at grants. And like I said, I sit in there for almost 20 minutes on my dime the other week after the meetings I had to go to and all. And the first thing said, I know what you're gonna talk about, the Hindle Building. I said, please help me find money for the Hindle Building. Because y'all have found Buckingham County some money and Charlotte County some money and all this. The trouble is, it was county owned and what category it was falling in. I don't know all the details on all that, but that's basically all these people do is get grants. They help
Basically,
us
we're not
get the
poor.
grants.
So basically, Amelia County's not poor. It's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
We did have Todd Fortune.
yeah, God, yeah, I know Todd.
He met with us.
Yeah.
He was on, he met.
At the meetings with me.
Yeah. And he was on all the committee meetings. So,
Yeah.
so he coached us through that grant thing. So I just want to make sure you knew we did our due diligence with the grants before. And that's where the low and middle income piece that He's coached us on all that stuff.
When the grants and stuff was gotten for this, we was in the district with Charlotte County, Highway County, and all that. So that, what he's saying is true. That's what we went through. We was able to get the money, the grants in. But you also gotta realize, when you get a grant, you got a timeline, that that building's gotta be used. What that grant said it was gonna be used for, you can't go 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road and say, well, it's not working, let's go use it. If you do that, you gotta pay that grant back. And that's gonna come back. But now that this county has been connected with Chesterfield district, changes all the money. We don't stand for that. We're not a rich county. We're a poor county in a rich district.
Well, that's what they told me. See, y'all cursed up there. You're blessed and cursed. You're cursed because you're so close to Chesterfield, but you're blessed because you're so close to Chesterfield. My dream is Mrs. John Doe dies tomorrow and let y'all have money to spend. Don't laugh.
But
I don't want anybody to
Don't
die.
laugh. I said John Doe. Because it could very well happen. If there's people in this county, it could very well happen. I mean, I just seen a thing on one of my committees where a lady left, the steps, I don't know, $200,000-300,000 in farm bill last month, whatever. I mean, she died. It was widowed. They're using it to help people in the community and stuff. It can happen. But the timing is, it's just not that right. I mean, with the world the way it is. And that's what Todd and I have to answer to people too. And I'm with Todd, I haven't gotten that positive feedback. And that's the trouble. My family been in this county for over 100+ years. I don't know exactly, I know it's way over 100, but I'm not for tearing it down. I would love to see something there. I do like a good steakhouse or seafood, but.
No, that comes to me, my next question. I want to ask you and Todd, would the county have objection if this committee was to put it out there, advertise it? Maybe there's some financial group somewhere would be willing to take it and develop it, renovate it, and use it for whatever, as an investment.
Well,
Can the county do that?
Well, we could check on it. We could get someone say, hey, you got that rent free for 10 years to cover your cost being there. Or I know people have done that before. Hey, you put that there, we'll make it. I mean, we got to do the gutters and windows or whatever. I mean, but the inside, you want to put this and this and in, then you got to help us by making it code, applying, passing code and all. And you can be in here for 10 years, you don't pay nothing but your utilities. I haven't heard that mentioned. I haven't heard mentioned.
I mean, there's all kinds of options, and this is what happens when you talk to people. The more people you talk to, the more ideas you come up with. And I've gotten in trouble with some people telling me I'm not supposed to do that. But I mean, that's who I represent. And you get a better answer from 10 people than you do from 2. I just think we need to sit, let's look at it, think about it, and let's see what we can come up with. I mean, the community center, I think it's too small. I think it's good for meeting rooms. If we got a big demand, you go rent out a meeting room or whatever. I think that's about all you'll get out of it, is 4 meeting rooms. I don't think you'll get anything out of the basement.
I guess we'll never know because apparently we're not going to do the design. So.
Hey, we can go design build and get some builders out here and let them look at it.
Why don't y'all do that?
I mean, good. That's what Daryl recommended.
I think you can do that, you don't need a committee for that.
And Daryl is not,
I have no problem.
he's not dumb when it comes to this stuff.
Paul and Todd's on it. I think we'll have no problem. I know.
So why don't y'all on the county side, let's put that out there, let's do that.
Design build?
Yeah.
I think you could.
Let's,
I think it doesn't cost a dime.
What don't
And I think if it gets slow here in the next 6-8 months, I think you'll see a lot of bites.
I think if you advertise it, you don't have a clue what you might get. So investment firms like that would probably take that whole building and run with it.
I mean, just gotta put some pluses with it. I know I keep saying this. We talk, the committee spent a lot of time talking to a lot of people, talking to developers, the folks that did the feasibility study, talk to people. So when you say, if you get more people and get ideas, or I guess as the chair of the committee, I feel like I need to defend the committee that we put this work in. I know you guys are just here today for the first time, but for 2.5 years, this work was put in. So
It was bad timing.
I'm like, when did you start? Okay, if that, all right. We had bad timing. I hear you. I hear you that I'm just saying, but it's not that we didn't talk to a lot of people. It's not that we didn't talk to developers. You know, you can always say, well, it's not, 2 years from now is going to be better, 4 years from now, maybe so. And we can wait. And that sounds like that's what we're going to do.
Well, I mean, as far as the county is concerned, I don't think we'll be willing to spend $2.3 million for a community center. I don't think we could justify it. But, you know,
And you justify making the building a more attractive prospect for some future use.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
It
saying.
belongs to the citizens of this county, and y'all are the other people, Board of Supervisors represent the citizens of this county. And so it's. one of
If
the
we can
things
do
that's
the part,
incumbent-
almost the arm and a leg.
One of the things that's incumbent upon owners of property is, in my view, anyway, is to maintain it and to safeguard it. And that hasn't been done. And we've had discussions way before the Hindle Building Committee ever existed about doing something with that building. And look at it, it's still sitting over there the same. The only thing that got any better about that building that I can remember I've lived in Amelia off and on for 34 years, I think, or something like that. The only thing I can remember getting done with that building was putting that roof on. That's the only thing. No other major improvement, not even painting the building has been done in all that time that I could. So, you know, somebody needs to step up and show some vision and leadership on that issue. And I appreciate that if you're looking for stuff, if you're saying you don't want certain things to happen, but frankly, that certain thing is going to eventually happen if something isn't done with it in the near future. You can't have, an unoccupied, unused, unmaintained building and just expect it's just going to continue to exist in perpetuity, so that you can eventually someday do something with it when you get around to it. And y'all know that y'all got common sense, you know that.
Well, I mean, it's just like you see somebody move out of a house and nobody moves in, a house goes to nothing.
Exactly.
but all the old buildings around here have been restored. And see, that's the whole problem. That's the only one that's left.
Yeah.
Because nobody can come up with an idea.
But they've already agreed to maintain it and keep it.
That's right.
If they're serious about doing that, that's the problem that I'm having is that nobody, and I'm not judging y'all too particularly because y'all just got on the board, I don't know, a year, 2 years, whatever.
11 months.
2 days, to be exact.
How many minutes? Anyway, so if you look back at history, this county has not had a good track record of taking care of buildings, and this one, particularly that we're sitting in right now, went through a spell where it looked just about as bad as that one does right now, and it finally got turned around. And I know people are saying it's not adequate for this and not adequate for that, but whatever. But it has gotten used for what, 15 to 20 years roughly. I just have a healthy degree of skepticism about, you take something off your priority list and then it just goes to the back burner where it has been for the last 34 years that I've had it committee.
You think that's because the general population is not interested? Which is the same people that you want to pay for?
No, I don't agree with that. Actually, I think that a lot of people in the general population do care about it and do want something done with it. And, if you just look at a cross section of this room, with the exception of you, apparently, they see something don't be done.
Turn it down.
Well, you were the one that said you didn't want to come to a committee meeting because it didn't benefit your section of the county. It doesn't benefit you or doesn't benefit, so it doesn't particularly benefit me, but I'm here.
All right. So
I mean, that's like saying, hey, did you go to a deer hunting committee?
Would I go to a deer?
No, have you? I mean, that's,
It's
not apples to apples. Stop.
Okay, so let's come to a conclusion. We all agree we want to save the building, correct? Correct.
Yes.
We have a disagreement with spending the money now. However, we do have an agreement to maintain the structural integrity of the building until the agreements of spending the money.
I think we can get that agreement.
So,
I can't speak for the board, but I think we can get that agreement.
right, it's a better chance of maintaining it than
Exactly.
spending more money and basically, so that's what we come to the conclusion. Regardless of the agreements or disagreements.
If I may throw in, you'll probably make the building, if you're talking about bringing a private investor or donor or whatever. One idea, you're gonna make it a little bit more attractive to people when you do things like maintain the building, so it's not.
Right.
And we've already agreed on that. Hazardous materials, we know we're going to have to do it. Sooner or later, it's going to have to be addressed. My philosophy is the sooner you get it done, the more it's off it's off the discussion. It's no longer relevant. And the building becomes a little bit more attractive to anybody who may be looking and doing something. So you're maintaining it, you've gotten rid of the hazardous materials, you have a blank slate sitting there. That's my point.
So
Something all to consider.
let's separate the responsibilities in this sense. What, from this point on, what does the Hindle committee want to do to help with the situation? So we agree, we want to try to attract people. Okay, what can I do to help that? Is there something, a process that we can do to post on the website, kind of see what's out there, and I'll make sure it's okay with everyone. That way you can bring it together, bring something together, and then maybe have a discussion, someone come up with, someone get out there and get an estimate of how much it would cost and take out the hazardous materials. To have a smaller estimate of maintaining the building, not completely redesigning it, you know what I'm saying?
And another idea is on the Amelia County website. With Bob's idea about a vote. Let's put a poll on the website.
I have to make sure, I don't think that's legal. That's unfortunately.
Same thing as Facebook, you know.
And you're not getting everybody. See, that's,
And we
you only in my area, I bet 10% of my people in my district have internet.
You'd be better off hosting an event.
That's it.
Honestly.
They had a community center, they could probably use it there.
Well, a bingo hall. I thought about that.
Oh, I love bingo.
Bingo, because see, when I was running, I met a lot of people in my district that love bingo and they get tired of driving all the way up here.
Yeah.
And see, I looked into that too, but Virginia's got funky laws with that bingo deal, because I was trying to get some going on at the fire station. And we couldn't do it.
It's horrible.
Because I think we all want to make something happen here tonight, have something productive come out of this, right? I think the big thing I've been on is timing, right? The economy's gonna take a downturn, things are gonna get cheaper.
Yeah.
Why don't we jump on the maintenance when it goes into the downturn? And then when it starts going to upturn, we'll have that done, it'll be more attractive, it'll be more palatable. People will start looking to invest as the economy starts swinging up. That's when we look at private investment.
I mean, it would probably, the figures they had like for a restaurant, and I don't understand that, because you like the Halfway House, which is on Jeff Davis over there at 288.
Yeah.
That's in the basement of an old house. And they might serve 8 tables max. I don't even know if they have 8 down there. And then they have a big meeting room upstairs. The kitchen is in the old kitchen outside, and that's it. But they make a slew of money because of that clientele. They have good food, it's top-notch food, and they get a premium for it. So I mean, you know, Amelia's starting to see, I've heard people say, we need a good restaurant. We need a good restaurant, good steakhouse, good this. So you're seeing things change from Lucky's slice of pizza or Perky's pizza or whatever it is to where people are starting to eat at Dog State and they're eating at Easy's and they're spending, you know, $15, $18 a day for lunch. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen in the near future?
Well, Todd,
So,
you know, as well as I do, we sit in on a meeting, things are getting ready to change in the media.
Oh, yeah.
shortly.
yes.
Big time changes are coming.
Yeah, y'all ain't seen nothing yet.
Y'all, we ain't seen nothing what's getting ready to happen.
You might not like it, but it's
Yeah,
coming.
But we've had another county approach us already and tell him and I, y'all better get ready. It's coming. And it's gonna be here before you realize it. And it's gonna be major changes up there.
All right.
That's the Building 6 project.
May I make a suggestion? Could we perhaps propose that just to demonstrate, you know, that I know what y'all do doesn't necessarily bind the board of supervisors, but everybody agrees the building ought to be maintained. Everybody agrees that certain things need to be done to properly maintain it. Again, everybody seems to agree that hazardous materials exist in the building. The hazardous materials are going to have to be abated by somebody at some point in time. Why not adopt your suggestion, or I guess Daryl's suggestion specifically, of having contractors come out here and tell us, you know, how much is it going to cost to do that? And so you find out that it's going to cost more right now than you want to pay. Okay?
I mean,
You find,
you get a free estimate. You make a phone call up and come look at it.
you get your estimate, you put that out there at the next board meeting thereafter and say, we got estimates and they will range from this number to this number.
I mean, we can get Daryl on that. That's not an issue.
Well, that's what, you know, that would be showing, you know, some initiative and leadership on it, in my view. I'm not trying to pick on y'all, just to be clear. I'm not trying to pick on y'all. I don't even know either one of you. I know you a little bit, but I don't know you at all. So I don't mean to come off as abrasive or judgmental or anything like that. I'm just saying somebody with some ability to do something about it needs to show some leadership on this issue and move forward, even if it's just in the form of a baby step, like, you know, let's get some people in that building to give us some hard estimates on, you know, it's going to cost this to fix the windows, and it's going to cost this to put gutters on it, and it's going to cost this to seal up the asbestos, and it's going to cost this to seal up or remove the lead paint, you know, or whatever.
Well, see, I wouldn't do anything with lead paint or anything, because you don't know what's gonna happen in there. If somebody's gonna come in there and want this building to do something, you don't know if they go knock this wall down or if they go leave that wall.
Well, it
So, I
will give you
mean,
some guy, if, like you said, it's not gonna cost you anything, so why not go ahead and get the numbers?
well, I mean, that's
So that's what I
whatever,
wanted
but
to
I mean, the
agree.
gutters, I think y'all,
Okay,
the gutters are in there. We're gonna do the gutters, I think. That's been discussed. We talked about that.
To get some numbers that don't cost us a pile of money. I mean, I heard $300,000 like passed out when I heard that kind of figure for a study or what, you know. So
We're doing-
Engineering design.
but we would get this with $0. I'm all for that.
All right, let's do it.
all right,
This is something that's a little different than what's happened in the past. If you go back and look at our CIP amounts,
There's one other thing.
there's been a dollar amount, we're just gonna use a figure, $1,000 for you to do a CIP study on whatever, and you come back in at 1,200, or you come back in at 1,500. See, everything's always over. On y'all's feasibility, it was a little over, not a lot, a little.
They rounded the number. We had the price, they rounded the number.
Uh,
No,
that's besides the
But I mean, see, this is,
two or whatever.
Yeah, this is what makes me leery of the 300. This is what I was getting to. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah,
Let's stop.
they just rounded the number that they were.
So, so we're in agreement. Try and get some estimates. We're gonna try and get some estimates for
Yes.
maintenance and innovation.
So do you want Daryl to handle that?
Would you like the committee to, would you two, not as the board, but would you two see any purpose in any member of the committee doing anything? Or the committee as a whole doing anything to assist the county in this project?
I would probably prefer to turn Daryl loose on it and let him make the calls and do what he needs.
The maintenance stuff, Daryl's the guy.
Well, Daryl's gonna do the maintenance regardless. He'll make those calls because he's going to oversee it. But even like the design build, you know, get the contractors out there to look at it, come up with the ideas, let Daryl handle it all. Because they're gonna want to do it during the day. They're not gonna do it in the evenings. They're gonna come out there at 9 o'clock in the morning and do whatever they gonna do. And let him do it.
Can we get copies of the reports
Nobody's
to
making it a
filter in?
contractor that we're not looking at right now, top-notch windows, top-notch this.
We're not changing with this.
Right, maybe
We're just making-
with this estimate that we're not talking about, don't give us an estimate of, making it the Taj Mahal right now. We're just maintaining it for now.
No, the design build would be turning it into something. They can come in with ideas.
What best suited that?
Yeah, but what you have, that footprint and what you see, to turn it into something that works, how much does it
Well,
cost?
you see it as twofold, basically, a design build and also give us estimates to do the basic stuff that's necessary.
Well, the maintenance, we already talked about that prior to this, was the gutters and there's supposedly some windows that are busted.
So a lot of them is busted in because of the lack of gutters, some of the bricks need to be repointed. I think on that corner of the building right out there, there's a lot of missing mortar.
So I mean,
I'm confused. I thought everybody agreed on to do the maintenance now and
Yep.
wait a few years until the economy starts.
well, no, if they would,
And
Yeah.
then get your design.
It might not be a bad.
We can get estimates, it's not gonna cost us anything. It's not gonna do-
that was a dime, whatever, I don't care.
It might actually be a good selling point in the future, to do
Exactly.
something, to be able to look back, it was gonna cost us this. And y'all two should be elect to run for reelection, in 4 years. You can say, well, we didn't spend that money, because you know what they said it was gonna cost back then? It was gonna cost $10 million to do all that work on that building. But now we waited and we got new estimates now, and now it's gonna cost,
More or less, whatever.
Well, a free estimate is a free estimate. You do it now, you can do another one later. Or
I mean, I do them every day.
And a building that is technically not falling down, it's not decaying or dilapidating, a building that has had the maintenance done routinely, it doesn't have any hazardous materials, so there is a more attractive selling item, something that
Okay.
somebody's gonna have to dump more into.
Yeah, we're gonna refile this thing around a little bit here, so,
all right, so I think there seems to be.
respecting the folks' time is good.
Yeah, baseball game starts at 10 minutes.
They don't care about that.
That's not bad.
Time I watch it.
I would still say,
One more thing, same thing, banking cap, we still. Yeah. Oh, good. If you go do something with the building, it's for being used as a business or anything. County can't own it, county can't bring it out, it's just conflict of interest. So you got to go back to that again.
But that's not the worry right now.
Down the road.
Now it's the estimates, let's do that.
Maybe so.
So Daryl's gonna be doing the estimates, we're gonna talk to him about it.
Parking lot, and some adjoining land.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'll
I
get
still
it.
think publishing an RFP that,
300,000.
no, publishing the RFP that costs you 300,000 is if you accept the responses.
But when you publish it, it releases it. And then
Publishing the RFP?
it's, you're in control, then you can go and do what you want. All he's gotta do is sign a check.
Hey, Tom.
All right,
Yes, sir.
so
Can you?
that's not gonna-
We're hitting new check.
Hey,
We
hold
get
your
this-
stuff.
all right, it's the end of the meeting, I am.
Are you joking about this?